Hello and welcome. I have been sitting with this thought for a while now, letting it ripen, letting it speak to me before I spoke into a microphone. I'm starting this podcast at a very tender threshold of my life. I have been a homeschooling mother for almost a decade. For years, my days have been shaped around rhythms, lessons, questions, doubts, silences, resistance, laughter, and growth, both my child's and my own. And now my son is preparing for his class 10 board exams, which means something very real is changing. I may soon stop homeschooling him in the way I always have. Not because the journey has failed, but because it has completed a cycle. And anyone who has walked consciously with a child knows that every true cycle deserves reflection, not rush. This podcast is my pause, a place where I turn back gently and ask, what did this journey teach me? What did it ask of me? What did I misunderstand? What surprised me? What would I tell the mother I was 10 years ago? And maybe what might be useful for you, wherever you are standing today as a parent. I'm not here as an expert with a neat method. I'm not here to convince anyone to homeschool or not to homeschool. I'm here as someone who walked the path, stumbled often, learned slowly, and stayed curious. This space is for parents who feel the quiet tug to do things more consciously. Parents who sense that raising a child is not a project, but a relationship. Parents who are tired of urgency, comparisons, and fear based advice. I want this to be an unhurried space, a space where we don't rush to fix children, but learn to understand them, a space where parenting is allowed to be scared, imperfect, and deeply human. You might be homeschooling, you might be considering it, you might not be homeschooling at all, but you care about how your children grow, not just what they achieve. If something I share resonates, take it. If it doesn't, if it doesn't, leave it behind without any guilt. This podcast is not about having answers. It's about asking better questions together. So think of this as gentle hand holding, not a roadmap, but companionship, not instructions, but reflections. If you are here, listening quietly, wondering whether you're doing enough or too much or the right thing at all, you know this. You are not alone. And maybe in these conversations, we can slow down enough to hear what our children and our own inner lives are actually asking of us. Thank you for being here. Let's begin our first podcast. There comes a moment in a young person's life when something quietly but firmly changes. They no longer want answers handed to them. They no longer want to be told what to think, what to feel, or what to believe. And yet, This is important. They are not rejecting adults, they are just rejecting dishonesty. Today, we are talking about what it really means to engage adolescents in honest conversations and why this may be one of the most important tasks of parenting and teaching during these years. Adolescents are often described as rebellious, argumentative, or overly critical. But beneath that surface, something else is happening. They are awakening to their own capacity to think. For the first time, they feel, I must make sense of the world for myself. This creates inner tension. They still need adults, but they can no longer accept authority simply because it exists. They are listening very carefully now, not just to what we say, but to who we are while we say it. They sense contradiction instantly. They notice when our words and actions don't match. And when they detect insincerity, they withdraw, not loudly, but inwardly. Honest conversations begin when we understand this shift. Many adults try to meet adolescents with advice, with lectures, with moral explanations. But advice assumes one thing, that the young person is not yet capable of insight. Adolescents experience this as disrespect, even if it's well intentioned. What they actually want is not instruction, but engagement. They want to wrestle with ideas. They want to test values. They want to explore contradictions, sometimes even dramatically. When we rush to correct them, we interrupt a necessary inner process. Honest conversations do not mean agreeing with everything they say. It means taking their thinking seriously. Here's the uncomfortable truth: we cannot engage adolescents honestly if we are attached to being right. Adolescents will expose our unresolved beliefs, our borrowed opinions, and our unexamined habits. This is why these years feel so challenging. They are not only growing, they are mirroring. To speak honestly with an adult must be willing to say, I don't know everything. I am still learning. That's something I struggle with too. This doesn't weaken authority, it transforms it. Because now authority is grounded in authenticity, not control. Honest conversations sound slower. They include pauses. They allow silence. They leave questions open. Instead of, you shouldn't think like that, as a parent, we might say, that's an interesting way to see it. What led you there? Instead of saying, you're too young to understand, maybe we can try saying, many adults struggle with that too. The adolescent is not looking for perfection, they are looking for readiness and realness. During adolescence, young people lean strongly towards ideals. They are drawn to heroes, causes, visions of a better world. Sometimes their ideals feel unrealistic to adults, but dismissing them is dangerous. Ideals are not meant to be corrected immediately. They are meant to be tested by life slowly. Our role is not to crush ideals with cynicism, but to hold them with warmth and seriousness. To be able to say, yes, the world is complicated, and yes, your longing for something better does matter. This is how moral strength grows. Honest conversations become possible when adolescents feel they are seen, not managed. They are heard, not evaluated. They are trusted, even when they disagree. At this point, something remarkable happens. They begin to listen back, though not immediately, not obediently, but genuinely. Because now the relationship is no longer about power, it is about truth seeking together. Adolescents don't need us to be flawless, they need us to be human. They need adults who can stand firmly in the world without pretending to have it all figured out. When we meet them with honesty, we prepare them not just to think clearly, but to live truthfully. And that may be one of the greatest gifts education can offer. Thank you for listening. If this reflection resonated with you, sit with it. Notice the next conversation you have with a young person and ask not what you want to teach, but what might want to emerge from these honest conversations.